What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knocks Talks. First, and most importantly, I have to recognize that last week was my dear mother's 70th birthday, and I just wanted to wish her a happy 70th birthday, and thank you for everything that you have done for me in my life, and I just cannot wait to see what kind of shit we can stir up together next. It's so amazing. So, now, let's talk about my sponsors, and one of them isn't a sponsor, they are a grant provider, and that is the Prairie Node of the Canadian Research Initiative in Substance Misuse. And my sponsor is Prairie Sky Recovery Center here in Wilkie, Saskatchewan. Let's see. What next? Oh yes, tonight's guest, of course, Corey Preston, went from military upbringing to gang life to being a mental health leader and advocate, and we are going to meet him right after this. Thank you for being here, Wilmina.
I spent 23 years living in addiction. 16 of those years I worked as a Red Seal tradesperson in Saskatchewan and Northern Alberta. During that time, I made many mistakes and took more than a few hard knocks. I went from tradesman to business owner to hiding from gang members and dumpster diving. But with that lived experience, I've decided to try and make a change. I've dedicated my life to raising awareness and promoting change in the fields of substance use and psychological health and safety. So join me and my guests as we take off the blinders around mental health in our communities and at work and shine a light on what's working and what's not working in the fields of mental health and occupational health and safety. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and I'll be your host, and this is Hard Knocks Talks.
Okay, so it looks like we might be having some problems with our stream. I'm not sure. I'm seeing some indicators that are turning yellow, and that means bad things might be happening. So I hope that it looks good out there. Let's see. Where is Corey? Let's bring him in. What's up, Corey?
It's good to be here, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Are you feeling good tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. Like, to be honest, probably like a 6.5 out of 10. You know, that's life. You're not always going to be in a perfect mindset and state.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. Are you ready for the flashback?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This one. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in a military family?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. You know, waking up at 0500 hours, like 5 a.m. every morning, hearing the howitzer artillery guns shoot off, and just a very different environment than you would see just in any other Canadian city. It's basically a small town community, also sided beside tanks and artillery, and like it's something out of a movie. And I didn't know any difference of it because from the age of 1 to 9 years old, I was always moving to different military bases across Canada, and it was very different than, you know, the standard societal norms. A lot of the kids there were deathly afraid of their parents because they're military. So there wasn't that many problems in school. Like there was a couple, but like, you know, I always had a good group of friends. I always had a lot of love, and you know, I was bullied one time, and my friends, I had like 8 of them walk me home. and like protect
Yeah.
me. I had like this tribalness, a community. It was actually quite beautiful. It was not easy though, because my father used to make like 18, 20-year-old men cry for a living as a master bombardier in the artillery. He was training boot camps and stuff, so he was pretty strict, pretty conservative with me. But like regardless of that, like I just kind of want to get away from the military life and go into the fact that what happened essentially in 1999 is that my father was medically discharged. He was doing workup training for a Yugoslavia mission for the UN, and basically he had an airborne rucksack that blew out the cartilage in his knees, and due to this, he was not able to remain in the military. At this time, my grandfather, who I didn't even know existed, I only thought I had one set of grandparents on my mom's side. My grandpa flew in to Shiloh, CFB, Manitoba, just before we moved out of the base, and he was my grandpa. I had no idea he existed. I don't know why I didn't know that he existed, but essentially he was trying to save us from this predicament that we were in. So he, convinced us to come to Hamilton, Ontario. He's going to get us a nice house. He's going to get us all set up. And essentially what happened is he lied. Yeah. And I didn't know this at the time, but my grandfather was an ex-gangster with the Montreal Mafia, robbing banks, and did like 20 years in jail. And there's a reason that my dad...
So you were like, when you didn't realize that, like, so when you were growing up, where did you think Grandpa was?
I only thought that I had one set of grandparents. I just thought I had a grandpa and grandma with my mom, and we used to go to BC once in a while, and
it wasn't
I was
even
never
a thing,
told about my other... No, it's because my father had a falling out, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like it was... My dad had a pretty tough life. Like they were on the lam, which means a Canada-wide warrant, for 2 years. My last name's Preston, but essentially my dad and his entire family, they were using the name Riemann for 2 years as an alias in order for my grandpa to avoid being captured by the RCMP, robbing the Chilliwack CIBC and like all over the country, and convenience stores and like, yeah.
Really? Was there ever any substance use at home growing up?
No, like to be quite honest, my family, like there was a lot of Irish and Ukrainian yelling and a lot of discipline and stuff, but my parents were pretty stable. My dad had such a pretty screwed up childhood that he really worked hard to give me like stability in life and a discipline and the ability to feel like I have structure, because he didn't have that kind of life. He was at the bar at 3 a.m. as a kid, waiting for my grandpa to like get out of the bar and beating my grandma in front of him all the time and like putting guns to her head and like just crazy stuff, right? So like he really impressed upon us. He was very conservative, very disciplined, very fucking, excuse my French, very scary, very terrifying. And
your grandpa or your dad?
My father. I never saw what my grandpa. I heard things. I never saw his mean side in person. Anyway, I've heard many things, but
yeah.
So, anyways, there wasn't like. There was drinking and stuff. Like there was like, in the conventional sense of things, like there was definitely drinking, but there was no like substance misuse or anything of that nature. So anyways, like my grandpa came, he basically, I guess my father and him reunited and they worked through some stuff. This is unbeknownst to me. And essentially at this point, I'm like, okay, so like I have all these best friends. I got this life. I got like I want to be a film director. I'm getting the kids out and making movies and stuff and like learning film editing as like such a little kid. Like I wanted to be James Cameron. Like I was
Yeah,
obsessed with
yeah.
Terminator and True
So,
Lies
so
and like all these
making
movies.
making friends at that age wasn't a challenge for you then. It just came naturally.
Man, I was like dialed in. I you know like I was it was easy. I was always like a very extroverted person.
Hmm.
But when I took the transition from Shiloh CFB, Canadian Armed Forces Base, to Hamilton, Ontario, which is like the Detroit of Canada. It literally
Is it
is.
like is it like the Regina of Saskatchewan?
Yes, yes, exactly. It's the Surrey of BC. Hamilton
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
Surrey and
So
Regina. You know,
I had to get that in one last time because I don't have a problem with Regina. Regina is a wonderful city, but it's that rivalry, between Saskatoon and Regina. But now I have received some funding from a Regina organization, so I won't do that anymore. I just had to get it in one last time. So if y'all are watching down there, that was it. I promise, no more. Anyways, tell us about Hamilton.
yeah. So what happened is my father was convinced that we're gonna have a nice place and stuff, but like going from the military, being like one of the top soldiers in Canada, like to civilian life is post-traumatic stress in itself of that transition. And he was having a lot of depression. He was struggling a lot, but essentially, we were put into a subsidized housing complex. So I didn't even know what that was. It's the projects in a multicultural area that is like very impoverished, lots of drugs, lots of gangs. So I had this really nice house on the base before, and like
Yeah.
nice friends, and everything's green and white picket, and like I never had problems, and like I never thought about my safety or abuse or anything of that nature, really, like at school at least, and yeah, and then we went to this complex, and everything just changed. That was the ground zero of Corey's innocence plummeting and taking a spiral down. Um, so basically, what happened is I started playing with these kids. My dad is working as a superintendent at this complex as his first job from being in the military to civilian life. So as I'm playing with these kids, which I'm absolutely terrified of, they're like sizing me up and making fun of me already, and I never really encountered this, so I just kind of like went from like extroverted to introverted, kind of scared, like I'm not sure what to do. Then they found out that my father was the superintendent, which is responsible for evicting the families in this house, these complexes,
Was there a lot of
and checking the
evictions?
meat. There was lots of evictions, lots of cockroaches, lots of evictions, lots of problems.
Yeah.
My poor dad and my mom, and like they were just like they were not treated very nicely by the community. And I remember it was called Canada, and it was a really brutal, brutal, brutal place in Hamilton. Like
Hmm.
it was the people there were very traumatized. There was a lot of drugs. It was
Hmm.
like going from one dimension into a complete new world that I had no idea existed. It was something out of a movie to me.
Yeah.
And what happened is, as I was playing with these kids, some of them were trying to be friends with me, some of them weren't. It was just a weird energy sequence that was happening.
Hmm.
So then my dad started to have to go through all the lists and start evicting these families.
Mm.
So then I'm taking these kids' friends away.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
they made fun of my dad, but they started brutalizing me. It went from verbal abuse to having a guy named John and Brad that were just like 2 years older than me, who pushed their mother down a flight of stairs trying to kill her when I had no idea this kind of stuff was even happening. They targeted me because that my dad was giving their mom a hard time.
Yeah.
And then another family that was, with an ethnic different background than mine, started targeting me with three brothers because their family was getting a hard time from my dad because they weren't paying their rent, and they were, tons of different problems that landlords have to deal with at the big commercial level, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went from getting verbally abused to just like absolutely assaulted, punched in the face, my hat getting thrown off all the time. Then it started getting to the point where they tried to break my finger. Then they started throwing me into the curb when I'm going into the, like, just go around the corner to the bus stop.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with at home, which my dad was going through a very hard transition. So there wasn't a lot of peace in the house. I'll just leave it at that. And basically what was going on is like I didn't have a friggin' place to escape like I did before. I didn't have a place to have imagination. I didn't have creativity. I was terrified of walking out my door at the age of 9 to 10 years old, walking out my door. Then I have to go to the same bus route every single day and then go around the corner and then all those kids are there.
Were you seeing
like
any drugs?
An army of kids. I was seeing like marijuana and stuff. I'm probably sure I saw lots of other stuff. I just, like my awareness to that was, like I was too juvenile to really understand. Like there wasn't like heroin and stuff all over the place, but there was a lot of drinking, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of problems, a lot of police. So that's all I saw, right?
Yeah.
A lot of screaming in the courtyard because it's a big project system, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, just so I stay on point here, basically all these kids, an army of kids, started disseminating information about my background and what my dad's doing and how much of a loser and a bunch of names I can't say on here. And this went to the school called Tapley Town. Tapley Town is a school, like a elementary school where there's guns. Not a high school, an elementary school where there's guns and drugs. So this school is like the kids there, you would think they're 12 and 14, but they look like they're 20 years old. And everyone is just on me. I'm on the bus getting teased, and I got those mediators, the people with the orange vests back in the day that would like watch you. They used to make fun of me too. Oh, because God. The bullies were like, yeah, man, the bullies were like so scary that no one ever, like, these nice kids with these vests on aren't going to do shit, right?
Yeah.
So like the entire experience was like hell. I get out of my home, I go to the bus stop dealing with hell. I get on the bus is dealing with hell. I go to school. I can't even go for recess because I'm terrified I'm going to get beaten up. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have to avoid everybody. It was just, it was a compounding effect. Because it happened every single day in a different dimension, a different way.
Did you tell your parents about the violence?
They found out because there was a multitude of different altercations.
But you tried to hide it though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like they said they're gonna kill me if I say anything, and I talked to the cops. I was like, I didn't even know I could talk to the cops. I didn't even know what. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah. So like, yeah, and then they just kept on me, and essentially, like, as I progressed, my soul like internalized, and then my heart evaporated. I started not being able to sleep. I started having insomnia at night, not being able to go to sleep at like 3 a.m. and I'd get like 2 hours sleep. So not only am I, at this time I didn't know, but getting a brain injury from post-traumatic stress, I'm getting abuse all the time, verbal, emotional, physical, everything you can imagine, and thinking I'm actually going to die at such an early age. Now I'm not sleeping on top of that, which just made me completely like the most miserable person ever. And it was like only a couple of months before I started like having insomnia. And I just like, I wasn't Corey anymore. I disappeared into something else. And I just was in survival mode to adapt and find out like, how can I survive the next day? How can I avoid these kids? How can I stay away from this?
How long did the violence go on?
But it didn't, a year and a half. Like really, really severe abuse. You see the kids getting pushed and stuff. I was getting smashed out, man. I was getting jumped. I was getting screwed with. I was getting like sand thrown in my eyes. And I'm over it now because I've talked about it so much and had so much therapy. But you don't have to go to Afghanistan. You don't have to get hit by a car and almost die in order to get PTSD. You just have to have accumulated little traumas and build up and build up and build up. And then your brain just gets injured. And next thing you know, your amygdala, which is in the back of your brain, it's responsible for the fight or fight response, which pumps your body full of adrenaline. And then you're running on adrenaline. You're not even conscious anymore. You're not even like aware. You have no focus. You're just in like response mode to everything. I used to like jump all the time, and like it was a really bad situation. So my parents, eventually, so many things have happened that my parents like sat us down. So we have to get out of here. You guys aren't safe. We're getting threats. We're getting lots of problems. And we also know like what's going on with you guys. You're getting a lot of abuse and everything else. My little brother, not so much as me. For some reason, like I was targeted more. Maybe because like I talked more, or I just had like, I was trying to make jokes and like try to be funny in order for them to like me. And for some reason, the way that I was doing it and engaging the bullies made it like so much worse for some reason. Yeah, like I didn't have a personality anymore. I couldn't talk, and it was really bad. And Corey was dead basically at the age of 10 years old. And my parents relocated us to a rich area called Winona, which is outside of Stony Creek in Hamilton. And they strategically on their end, like that seemed like a pretty good idea at the time, because like then I could like go not be around gangs and not get jumped and beaten because my parents are evicting these people, and there's just so many problems. So I was like, sweet, I got a new start. I got new friends. Like, this is gonna be amazing. Oh my God, man. It was like the same shit, but just different. Like I got there, and because we lived in a rich community, but we were poor.
Okay.
So I had paper bags. I had, my clothes weren't as nice as the other kids. I didn't have a lunch box like everybody else. Like everybody was like obsessed with having a lunch box for some strange reason.
Yeah.
And because of these things, I was called poor bum. At Winona, I was called poor bum. And it was never referred to Corey, I was just poor bum. And I had a couple friends, but then basically they avoided me because everybody was teasing me. And that's when I started like lying like so badly. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted the kids to like me. So I would just tell them anything that, oh, hey, I have other friends outside the school. Like, like I don't even care about you guys. Like you don't bother me, this kind of stuff. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm dying inside in order to have like a little love and care and some friends that support me. And
so,
so like yeah.
How old were you the first time you got loaded? And like, what were the circumstances around that?
So it was like probably like grade 8, and I was like, 12, 13 years old. And, I was stealing liquor and stuff from my dad with some of my friends at another school. It was not Winona, it was College Street. So this is like, we moved a bunch of times, man. There's so many problems like all the time in different these places. So, I wasn't really drinking to numb the pain. I was drinking to, make friends kind of thing at this point. And, I was stealing my parents' liquor and giving it to my friends in order for them to like me. Or I was stealing cigarettes. I was stealing like cartons of cigarettes like in a month. And my parents eventually found out. Yeah. Yeah, like my parents used to smoke, like they used to hack the darts, like crazy amounts of darts.
Hack the darts. I haven't heard that saying for a while.
I had to bring back the Cheddar Bright Boys. Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, they were hacking the darts a lot, and I was like, hey, a lot of those kids that beat me up and bullied me, they smoke cigarettes, they drink. I'll go get that stuff for them and then pay them off. Well, that was really stupid because then the kids started expecting that shit like all the time. And if I didn't come up with it, like, wake up in the morning before my mom wakes up in order to like take a few cigarettes or something, then I would get more shit. So like I had multiple different names, and at this school I started drinking at and smoking pot, what happened is they called me Bacon Boy. They called me Bacon Boy. I can't talk about the whole story, but it's quite graphic about a bee stinging me in the bum, and then bacon being shoved up my thing in the
Okay.
back, and then my mom also had some involvement that was sexual in nature apparently. So these
It's not
these
funny, but
these
it's just like,
stories.
man, these stories that come out. Like
Oh,
I've
it
got
kind of
stories.
is.
My child or my younger adolescent years had some stories like that too, and it's crazy the shit that people come up with.
Kids are very creative with their abuse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
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 So anyways, like I had a massive identity crisis, right? Like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. Sorry. And so I tried to become a goth. I couldn't make it with the goths. I tried to become a punk skater. Couldn't make it with the punk skaters. Couldn't skate. Couldn't turn left and right on a on a skateboard, right? I could go straight, but I couldn't turn
Yeah.
left or right. Tried to be a guitarist. Couldn't play guitar. Wasn't my thing. And like I always tried to fit in with everybody. I tried to get every tool, identity system in order to adapt to the certain tribal cultures of school. And because I had such a defeatist attitude with life and friends, and I was like just a shell of a kid, I was not able to connect with people. I wasn't able to be authentic. I wasn't able to be my true self. So this entire mindset and this energy consistently went to every single school I went to. There were some schools that would be physically abused more, and there were some schools that would be verbally and emotionally abused more. It didn't matter at this point because I didn't care anymore. I was just used to it. I used to walk to school and want to die. Like I wanted to literally die. I was contemplating suicide at the age of 12 to 13 years old. I didn't even know it was suicide. I just knew that I wanted to not exist. I would look at cars and be like, hey, I could walk in front of that, or I could just disappear like a chameleon, like when these kids are bugging me, or maybe I'll just go and never come back, and I'll just go into the woods, or like, all these crazy thoughts that came up, and they were consistent thoughts all the time. Like every time I walked to school, I always had different like patterns of thoughts like this.
Mhm.
So I was not doing well, and then that started showing in my grades. I failed grade 5 because of my trauma. Like I couldn't even sleep. And I couldn't stay with the kids. I failed grade 5, which really made me even a bigger loser in front of everybody else because the
Yeah.
porta potties, my former class the year before now sees that I failed a grade, already being bullied, and now like everybody thinks I'm just the biggest idiot in the world, and they tell me it all the time. I couldn't
Got
even
some
hang out with
comments
my
coming
old
in.
friends.
Gonna
Yeah, so
Just gonna look at a couple of comments here.
yeah.
Donna, thanks for watching. Donna says, "Good Lord, my heart goes out to you." Thank you, Donna. And we've got Haley. Haley can relate. Oh, and while we're here, we have another comment from Haley who lives in Regina. So thank you for that, Haley. Moving on. So you're in high school, and you graduate, correct?
Yeah.
And then off to the military.
Yeah, well, it was just at the end of school. Basically, I joined the Canadian Armed Forces infantry, the Army Reserve, and basically, my father, he just kept impressing on me that I have to be disciplined. I have to get my life together. I need some kind of structure. So I joined the military in 2007, and I got in, and like I had such bad post-traumatic stress going into the military from all the abuse that happened, like whether it was at home or it was at school or whatever. Like I had no confidence. I was, dude, I failed my weapons test in my basic training 7 to 8 times just doing the C7A2 assault rifle. Supposed to do POs and stoppages and like different weapon systems and like how to clear the weapon, everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was shaking like this. My sergeant had to take me in the other room and take me through like 7 or 8 times. And like he went from being mean to me to seeing how like hard like I was struggling. Like he saw something psychologically wrong, and he started being sweet. So I was so fucked up that my sergeant went from being a sergeant to basically being almost like a borderline like counselor that was empathetic because he saw how bad my situation was. I barely made it through basic training. I even tried to break my leg with the butt of my rifle because I was getting just so messed up. A lot of our NCOs, which are non-commissioned officers like sergeants, master corporals, when they were on the course, they were fresh off of Afghanistan tours. Like they were hardened veterans that have like, went in and did combat and killed people. And they're training me, and I already have post-traumatic stress. I have no confidence, and they're scary as shit. And it made me more scared, obviously. But I just barely passed by the skin of my teeth in the course. I don't know how I wasn't recoursed, which means that you failed a boot camp, you got to do it again. I barely just got through. And man, when I had that, it was the first time ever. I remember graduation ceremony when I finally like could actually like change my corn leaf. Like you get a different like cap badge when you actually graduate a course. I felt like I had something for the first time in my life since I was a wee little guy, right? And it gave me an identity to belong to something. I don't know if I truly believed in what I was doing, but I know that my dad was somewhat more happier with what was happening. So I felt a little validation from him. And as I progressed, I did the entire LFTC Meaford course in Ontario, up north. And, like there was a lot of craziness that happened there with some of the veterans that were training us. They're abusing us and like kicking us and like beating us up. And one of the most got court-martialed because he tried to kill one of our, privates that was going through the course. And like, there was something inside me. I was like, you know what? I have to see this through. This is literally all I have. This is all I have in my entire life right now. I'm not going to keep being a loser. I'm going to graduate my soldier qualification training. I'm going to graduate my DP1 infantry training, and I'm going to go to regiment. I'm going to be a soldier, a professional death technician, as they say. I graduated. I barely did, it was very strenuous and very taxing on my mental health because the veterans were so scary. They were battle hardened veterans fighting the Taliban in the mountains, and it was pretty dicey stuff that they were telling us and training us. We're doing day and night morning PT and like barely sleeping and then like going on like 14, 15 kilometer runs every morning and just like crazy training exercises that the Army reserves normally wouldn't do. But because they were Afghanistan veterans, we were exposed to a lot more harder training. Anyways, when I got back after graduation of my DP1 infantry, I was very proud of myself. My dad even said he was proud of me. I remember going to Remembrance Day and having a kid come up to me and shake my hand. And his dad was like, I'm proud of you. And my dad and my uncle were like proud of me. And it was one of the most beautiful things that ever happened in my life, because up to that point, I never ever had that love or validation. It was the first time that my dad said he was proud of me. Sorry. And it was beautiful to me, but I was so messed up, man, that I was barely able to hold it together. Like I said, that when you have post-traumatic stress, you ain't sleeping. You're anxious of everything. Everything's still a threat. And I got some friends, and I remember coming home after training, and I just stopped. Like after 2 years of the military, like barely 2 years, I was just like, oh man, screw this. I just want to party. I just want to go be a kid again and be friends, and like I don't want to do this stuff anymore. And it's because I started drinking. I remember I started drinking like 30 Carling beers in a night, or like a 28 case, and I would drink the whole damn thing. And I had friends and camaraderie. I still had many problems, and a lot of the kids didn't like me because of all my history and stuff. But I still had a couple friends to get in trouble with. I ended up subsequently, because I didn't have money and a job, I ended up stupidly robbing my family and taking like income tax money in order to pay for like drugs and alcohol. And this was like at the age of 21. And
So
then
what did the family do? Like, what did your family
I
do
was
to?
homeless. They
Okay.
kicked me out.
Yeah.
I was So basically what happened is I was living in my car for 6 days with all my stuff, sleeping in parks in my car, my purple Cavalier. And I'm not kidding. It was a dark purple Cavalier. It was my first real car. And anyways, so yeah, like I was sleeping, I was homeless. None of my friends really wanted me to like sleep at their place other than like one friend a couple nights. Went back to my family, and then they just some more things, they found out more lies or something. I was trying to like mitigate a bunch of problems that I caused myself. And yeah, so I was homeless again for 4 more days. At this point, I like had no food. I didn't know how to be homeless. I didn't have gas money anymore. I wasn't able to survive. My friends were like keeping me alive at this point, and then so was alcohol and drugs and Money Mart and Cash Money and Cash Store and like anything I could ever, Insta loans, like anything
I
I could ever.
I just recently got a call from the credit bureau a little while ago from something that happened in 2012 where I did exactly that. So yeah,
Yeah, it seems to be the precursor of destroying your life is going to Money Mart or to
yeah,
Cash Money for sure.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, anyways, like went back to the family unit, and at this point, like I wasn't really considered, I didn't have like problematic substance use. I had mental health challenges that were leading me to find escapisms through social activities that happened to involve lots of weed, drinking, and then cocaine happened. And then when cocaine happened, I was in love because it completely shut off my brain and allowed me to like live. And like when I did it, I was able to like have weird conversations with friends I never had before. Excuse me. I also felt really cool, which is weird, but I felt like the cocaine thing was like, oh, the cool kids are doing it, like I've never done this before. My friends are sorry, I shouldn't say that. That's just slang. I'm so sorry. So I
Okay.
thought my friends at the time were like, like they were just weak in comparison to these other kids, essentially, right? So I started hanging out with like, people doing ecstasy and cocaine and like different pills and like pills I never even heard of before and stuff, right? So I started doing all that, and my dad and mom convinced me. Well, they gave me an ultimatum. They said, "You're going to detox." So these kids that I was hanging out with, like in their early 20s, they were not like considered what you would say an addict. They were recreational use, like just partying. They all had trauma most likely, but at the same time, like they weren't like doing drugs and drinking every single day. It was like, a few times a week kind of thing. So basically, as this progressed, I was forced to go to detox in Hamilton, downtown detox. Not a nice place
Yeah.
for a kid.
Well,
And
I don't
I
think
was
social
introduced.
detox. I don't think social detox anywhere is real nice.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, there's like, anyways, these people like it was like an upgrade. It was like so I was already thinking, being told that I'm an addict, and that like I'm just this like black sheep troublemaking demon basically by the world at this point. Not to sound like a victim, but that was my mentality back then.
mhm.
So I got forced into detox. I am now being educated on crack cocaine, heroin, opiates, all the stuff that I never knew. I'm in the detox withdrawal room for alcohol and weed and stuff, while there's two people coming off of like hard opiates beside me in the bed with an observation window in front of me. And I'm like, what the hell did I do to my life? You know, I went from the military to this, and like I used to have savings in my account, and friends used to call me up for money, and like I was like, what the hell is happening in such a short period of time? Like everything just like completely went the other way. My credit got blown up. Like I didn't have anything, and it was a tremendously difficult time. And when I was in detox, I got linked up to Alcoholics Anonymous.
How was that?
And then
did you get anything from detox? Like, did you come out of there with any skills or anything?
no, I didn't at all.
No.
It was more or less just like you know, AA meetings, NA meeting, like Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. I made a lot of friends that were into drug dealing, and also it was like a college for like, hey, if you didn't know these drugs, well, we have these drugs too. And
oh, wait, there's more.
but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like basically I came out of detox with more connections and more problems. I then was forced into Alcoholics Anonymous, doing 90 days, 90 meetings
in 90 days. Get a sponsor, read the book,
Yay!
do steps. Woo!
Yay!
Works for some people. Works for lots of people. Not everybody.
There was some like I'm not gonna slander AA. Like I believe that there is therapeutic qualities to peer support. However, myself, when I went into it, craving identity and belonging, and then it's like, hey, you don't have to think for yourself. You're powerless over alcohol and drugs. This is a preset default that you can have associated for your life. You're going to be an addict, alcoholic for the rest of your life. Every time you go to the meeting, say, my name is Corey and I'm an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. I'm going to reinforce this identity of this thing that I don't want to be. And then believe in it. And then I believed it. And then I became it. That was my whole thing, is when you have vulnerable populations going through an identity factory, such as AA, which I don't want to slander it. Like I said, it helps people. And anyone here that's watching that's doing AA, like, man, like they helped me. They did. Like they would pick me up at my house. They were showing kindness and love and compassion, giving me hugs, giving me lots of cigarettes. I didn't smoke until I went to AA. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, like it was a weird experience. But what it was is I reinforced this belief structure that I am powerless, that I have to rely on meetings and other people's crutches in order to not to destabilize and kamikaze into the ground. Mm-hmm. And that was my belief structure, and that's what my family was too, because they didn't know anything else. Like my grandma was an alcoholic, my grandpa was an abusive alcoholic. Like my dad just like picked up from the information he knew and did the best he could. I don't hold that against him. I forgive the situation. It's not even about forgiving him. It's about forgiving the situation. It was a highly complicated chemistry of events that led to this trajectory, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So anyways, at this point, I'm now getting set up for rehab. So I'm going to my first treatment center, Newport Center in Port Colborne, Ontario.
Okay. Now, so hang on. So okay, so you were in AA for like you said like 2 years or something, right?
Yes.
Yes, and during that time, you were all in. You were like, this is awesome. I got smokes and rides, and these people are nice to me. And what happened? Like, did you lose faith in that at some point during that time? Like, what happened there? That you feel the way that you do now? Like, where did the transition happen?
It was like when I got out of it, and I'm about to get into that right now. Like, so when I went to rehab, that was my breaking point of getting out of AA. Okay. I went to the Newport Center Treatment Center. It was co-ed, 8 guys, 8 girls, I believe, or whatever. And when I went in there, I found more connections, more people, like psychotic, like people like that were court mandated to be there. that were on the streets for many years.
Yeah.
And it was, like there was some like domestic violence happening with some of the people in there and like attacking the staff. And like, I'm like,
Oh,
what
wow.
the hell is going on? Like,
Oh,
but
shit.
this girl that I met, and this is where the story really picks
Oh,
up.
no. No. What happened, Corey?
This this is where the story really picks up.
Yeah.
So I met this girl, Kirby. I won't say her last name. I'm not even sure if she's still alive or not. I don't think she is. But anyways, so I met this girl, Kirby, and I guess she kind of liked me or something there. And like I had never had a girlfriend, by the way, up and like I'm like age 22 at this point. I never had a girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend. I like maybe just for like a week or something. I had a girlfriend. I did not have the confidence or belief in myself, and I thought I was ugly and all this stuff because I was told I was. So I literally just when I met this girl and she showed an interest in me, and I had no previous experience in relationships, I was like, hey, this is completely awesome. Like someone cares about me. She's kind of cute. And when we got out of rehab, I linked up with her, and I was still doing AA a bit, but I was starting to not like it. And but because my family was just like still forcing me to go. If I don't go to AA, I'm not sober. Like that was their mentality. And then I was like, okay, now I'm being pressured and forced to do this when I don't want to do this. I want to live a life. I want to go do other things, because I was in AA meetings like every single night. And if I didn't go, I would be in trouble, like either the group, my home group, or like, like my family or whatever. So anyways, Corey's moving out.
Here we
He's
go.
moving out of the chicken coop, and he moves in with his new girlfriend that he meets in rehab, because that was a very smart strategy in my life
Well, you loved
to
her
learn a
now.
lot. I
You were in
don't think
love.
I did love her, but yeah, in my cookie cutter head at the time, I
Yeah.
definitely thought I was in love, and the Cocoa Puffs and the unicorns and the pixie
Yeah.
dust was all
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sporadically sprinkled in front of me. And
When I was in
it's-
early recovery, it was like, you're cute, I love you now, and that was it for me. Fortunately, I learned my lesson,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
yeah,
anyway, sorry.
so no worries. So anyways, she had some very bad psychiatric problems. She had bipolar disorder and like schizophrenia and like a lot of things going on. She had like 10 different types of pills. There were antipsychotics and stuff. She like abused me so badly that I thought it was normal. I had no idea. She was putting cigarettes in my eye. She was like burning my arm with like boiling water when I screwed up cooking KD. But really, she just wasn't. She had no patience for anything, and she would just like turn like a demon in a second and just like completely attack me. She would bite me. She would like poke me. She threw haymakers on at me if I like made noise and woke her up in the morning and stuff. And like I was like, I'm in love with her. I'll do anything she's okay. I'm gonna save her, man. I'm gonna take her to AA and show her all the good stuff that I know. And there's definitely no problem with this girl throwing all my clothes out of the house, and like
Yeah.
I don't even have anywhere to sleep or anything. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my parents, I introduced them to Kirby, brought Kirby over one night just to like the integration, like, hey guys, this is my prize jewel. I'm gonna marry her. We're gonna have kids, and I just want you to meet my lovely new wife that's on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they knew something was up. They were like feeling the bullshit and the energy and everything. And I was wearing pajama pants. And my mom has like an instinct that you could never imagine, man. Like she has a radar. Like she knows me. Like she could just any bullshit or anything, any lies. Like she knows. Oh, ding ding ding. And she literally said, Corey, why are you wearing pajamas? You never wear pajamas. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I just wearing them because, like, I don't even know what I was telling her, but, I made some excuse up. And then one day, like, what she did? She, like, pulled my pants down as a joke. And she saw bite marks from my girlfriend, like, but not like hickeys, like actual bite marks because she used to bite me all the time. and like push me out of the bed when we were sleeping because I would snore or some kind of thing like that. And to me, I was just so used to it because, you know, I was really sick, mentally sick at the time, really, really sick. And I felt like I deserved this. The whole world's abusing me. Might as well have my significant other doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what happened is my parents did an intervention. They came to our place that we were staying at, and they basically said, Corey, we put a police report on this girl. You need to get out of there or she's going to kill you at some point. Well, I lied to them and said I was going to, and my friend tried to come get me too, that, you know, he's now a cop, he's our CMP. He actually tried to save me too. They tried to get me out of there because I was getting hurt a lot. Like, and I was letting her, I wasn't like hitting her back. I wasn't pushing her. I wasn't restraining her. I was just taking it, man, on the chin. Like I was just like completely just like, I deserve this. This is what happens. Like I made a mistake. I deserve this. So this got to such a bad point that 2 days after the intervention for my family, they literally they left and they abandoned. That's a bad thing to say. They left and they gave themselves space with me in order to help themselves recover from the emotional turmoil that was happening. And what happened is my girlfriend turned on me as soon as they left. I'm like, I'll take you over my family and all this stuff. And then she's like, you got to get out of here too. And then one day I poured a bottle of wine because the bed was like on an incline, right? And there was a bottle of wine underneath, and I literally poured it on her because I was trying to save her life. She went to the darkest realm I've ever seen a person ever go, and her screaming and shouting and everything, she just lost it. And she had a psychiatric episode, and she went in the kitchen and got a steak knife and then cut me under the eye, like literally gashed my eye open, and then stabbed me right in the chest. I literally had a steak knife inside my chest. I then now proceeding to run into a crappy little bathroom door with a tiny little hook as the lock, holding all my weight on, bleeding everywhere, by the way. I'm flayed. And all I hear is her running down the stairs, like in a panic, obviously because she just stabbed her boyfriend. She knows some troubles on the horizon. So I call my dad and I tell him, like, you know, Kirby just literally stabbed me and she's gone. I don't know what's going on. So he calls the police because I didn't want to put her away. And long story short, she went to jail. She went to jail for 2 weeks. I never spoke to her ever again. Basically, like a lot of things happened after that.
So
there's
your
too
parents,
much story there.
Your parents stuck with you through this whole thing. Like they gave themselves space, but they were there though when you needed them, correct?
Yes. They were. They definitely were. There was some undulating periods of like we had enough of your shit.
Yeah.
And they left for a while. But they, you know, like in my moments of crisis, they were there for me. And but the problem was, you know, like after she went to jail, my parents said, you can come home because you don't have any money. You don't got nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
When you come home, you're being isolated for a long period of time. You're not going out with friends. You're not going on MSN Messenger. You're not going on social media. You're going to watch movies and you're going to sit tight. And they quarantined me for like 6 months where I had no human connection with any friends or anything. And I just watched movies every single day.
How long was it before you ended up in college?
Pardon? This is like literally going right into college. Yeah. So like It was 6 months after that. I applied to Mohawk College for business administration and general business. And I got in. I got an OSAP loan from the government. And I'm like, sweet hot mama. Like I'm out of this chicken coop. I'm getting out of here. Oh my gosh. Like the launch pad is here. I cannot deal with this. I was watching movies every single day. And like the only persons I had to talk to was my brother that hated me. My little brother hated me. Or not hated, disliked me. We didn't get along very well. my mom and my dad once in a while, but me and my dad really weren't, because of everything that's happened. He was not particularly keen on me at that time, so we didn't really talk.
Yeah.
So essentially, after this period of time, I'm just gonna like fast forward this. I went to college, and I went from quarantine mode where, you know, like I'm not able to communicate with people or anything. I'm not
Yeah.
able to work out. I'm not able to do anything. Now I'm in college, and like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's
Yeah.
girls everywhere.
And cocaine.
There's drinking, there's drugs, there's like, oh
So
my gosh, this is
and
amazing.
and
Like,
now suddenly you're selling cocaine. Tell us about that.
so there's a quick little follow up before that, like a lead up. You know, so I dropped out of school basically 2 weeks in without even trying, because I was going to smoke hole every morning and just getting high with everybody, which would turn into drinking and going to the college pub at Mohawk College called the Arnie, and just getting wasted. And then the cocaine came around again, and I was partying like a substantial amount. I got banned from residence, the in residence or whatever. Like I was banned like for life because of my blackout drinking and stuff. I was the craziest person ever. You just call me Party Preston. And yeah,
You've
so
been
like
called worse. You've been called worse. So that's an
it
okay
was an
name.
upgrade.
It's an
Hey
okay
man,
name.
it was better than it was, better than Bacon Boy for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, so long story short, and we'll get to some of the other things that really need to be discussed that really changed my life. Basically, all my friends in college started disappearing as things progressed and the semesters ended. And I was living in a student house with like half hazard, like homeless people, and like, sorry, like they were like in halfway houses and stuff previously. They're being transitioned to that house. So I went from having like these kids and like, hey man, it's college life, to like, here's Hamilton, here's the streets, here's some homeless people. You're living
Yeah.
with homeless people. Now you're getting robbed, and you're not even drug dealing. They robbed the house one time. A bunch of homeless people did. So, anyways, I could talk about little like stories all day, right? I have to
Yeah.
stay on point here. So basically, all my college friends disappeared, and at this point, I was so broke from not being able to make money. So I was hanging out with a lot of pot dealers at the time, and I was mimicking their behavior. And honestly, like sometimes I was stealing weed from them and stuff because they would stash their stuff at my house. I was like, well, if they're stashing it at my house and using my place as a operational facility, then I'm going to steal from them. But anyways, I started getting into the weed trade. You know, at first just like dime bags and stuff like that, and ounces of weed. And then that, you know, that turned into cocaine, and it turned into fucking, sorry, excuse me, French, turned
It's
into like
okay.
pounds of weed. It turned into pounds of weed, turned into like, you know, queens, like 7 grams of cocaine, and then it turned into like ounces of cocaine, and then 9 packs, like 9 ounces, like a quarter kilos of cocaine. And I was no longer living in a student house. I was like literally, man, I wanted to become, I can't say their names, but I wanted to become a very prolific biker. And I started hanging out with a lot of different bad people that I also can't mention. And I was going to bars where these people were, and I was getting known, and also like basically becoming a middleman. So I was like, I went from like being like a small time pot dealer to basically like learning how to be like an actual gangster in a very short period of time, like of a year, right? So I started like the universe, because I requested these people, brought these people. And they, in my mind, for some reason, that's what I deserved, because I wanted to die. I want somebody else to do that for me. So things started getting elevated. I started doing robberies. I started becoming like really, really, really bad, like, and scary. Where like people wouldn't want to deal with me at Mohawk College if I go out partying. They thought I was a psychopath because they knew I was linked up with people. Right? I was no longer the college kid. I was the kid that was going to screw you up or go do a drive-by, or some of the, in their mind, that's what they thought, right? So what happened is like I had an entire trap house to myself. This place was like $3,500 rent, and I would have my friends there, and I pay their rent for them, and they'd pay me like nothing basically. but I was like trapping out my house like 14 pounds of weed, quarter kilos, like, and just like any drug under the sun, clonazepam, MDMA. I had like a palette of every drug you could ever imagine. I was able to get Peruvian cocaine, not to glorify this, but I was able to get anything I wanted because of my connections. And I was stacking up and leveling up and leveling up and leveling up because that was my destiny that I thought. I thought that I was going to do this and that I was probably not going to live very long while I'm doing this. I moved in to a house after a lot of things happened in an area that I was living in. I had some, I can't say them either, but I robbed the wrong person, and it was a minor robbery, and it was basically a show of force for the guy to like leave the area alone kind of thing. So I didn't realize that he was linked up with very, very high level people that came around in a $100,000 Audi looking for me and my friends at the student house that they knew me about. So I had to move, and I was a little scared about that. And so I moved in with some people that I got linked up with through a couple connections, and they had a mansion in Stony Creek, Ontario. I can't say the name of this mansion because, well, anyways, I got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
There was a coalition of different gangs that was in this house. It was like a brain surgeon's old mansion with like a massive staircase, a koi pond and when you walk into the lobby. There's an indoor swimming pool. There's hot tubs and jacuzzis and stuff in the back, and then mountains. It was like something out of a horror movie, basically. It looked like a haunted house almost. There's like 18 rooms in this house. There was some of the most graphic violence that I've ever saw in my entire life was in this house. I would wake up in the morning and prostitutes are getting beaten in the koi pond and thrown in the koi pond and being like beaten in front of me, and like police coming and everything else. And one time I remember I walked in, like it was just like 2 weeks living in this mansion, and this guy, I can't say his name, he walked up to me one night and he was wasted and he had a big mouth. Of all the guys, he had the biggest mouth. And he's like, "Hey man, I want to show you something." So he takes me down the stairs, and there's this big tunnel system in this mansion that goes into the garage. And he shows me, he's like, "Check this out." And the door of the garage, like the metal frame is completely bent in. It's like, that's where the SWAT team came in, like last year. And then he also said, "You see those black char marks on the thing? Those are flash grenades. They used to stack like hundreds of guns in the chimneys here. These people don't screw around. You probably don't want to stay here too long." And I'm like, yes, awesome. These are the people I'm looking for. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I was looking for all the trouble. I was like, this is it.
I'm home.
I used to watch Gangland. Like a show about Gangland, like it was about every gang in the world. That was my self-development back in the day of becoming something that no one was ever going to screw with me ever again. Mm-hmm. I was going to be the friggin' bully, and I had so much hate in my heart. I wanted to hurt people, not because I thought they deserved it, but because I thought that's who I am. I thought I was a demon, like, you don't go to hell for that long period of time and come out normal. You don't, especially when everyone hates you all the time and they're telling you you're a disgusting pig and a monster. You believe it. You become it. That's just what happens. It manifests itself.
So how did you get out of the mansion?
So I didn't really have a choice with that. Essentially what happened is, after a series of different events that I can't really speak on too much, I ran up a debt of like 30 grand with a couple of my contacts that were linked up with very bad people. One of my contacts basically forced me to rob one of my pot guys, a person I was selling large quantities of pot to. And he actually was supplying me with like a 10 stack, so 10 pounds of quad grade, like just high grade marijuana, right? So it's like a $10,000 to $12,000 deal. And basically what happened is like I had to ambush this guy because otherwise these guys were going to kill me, or not. If they don't kill me, they're going to like really give me some hell because they pump 50% interest to 100% interest daily on what you owe if you don't pay it. They got your passports. It's called cuffing. So they put like this metaphorical cuff on you. They have all your information of your family, everyone you know, and they will go collect. And they have people, enforcers, to come and get you and everything. And I knew these enforcers. I used to give them envelopes of money and go to their trap houses all the time. And I knew that it was going to be a problem, so I didn't even think twice. So I ended up ambushing this guy that I was selling weed to and buying weed from him from time to time. Didn't particularly feel good about it. I had to do a lot of drugs in order to get to that place where I was going to do this because I knew that this guy was a little bit heavier than the other people I've robbed previously. But at the time, like I got two of the guys from the mansion. They're Cambodian fellas, and they were, Barton Street Jail. Like they were telling me they're hardened criminals. They've done robberies and stuff before. There's a lot of different people in this mansion. Some were like really hardened, and some were a lot of talk. And these two guys ended up being a lot of talk. And they were doing so much ketamine before the robbery because they were so anxious that they spaced out and they didn't even do the robbery. They just basically stayed in a stairwell. Well, sorry, I can't say that. Should cut that out. I should have said that. I ambushed a guy.
We can trim
we'll
it.
just call him. Yeah, so we'll call him Mr. X. I ambushed Mr. X. I took the 10 pounds of weed off of him, and then we proceeded to go in the vehicle. He actually started chasing us in the vehicle. This is quite a long story, but I'll try to make it short. He chased us in the vehicle in the Hamilton, like smashing the car into us and like trying to like throw us off the road and freaking out on his phone, screaming to somebody. So then we were supposed to go south towards the United States border in order for me to do the drop after and give these two fellas $2,000 each in order to pay them off for doing this robbery that they didn't really do anything about other than drive. So anyways, I told them to go south and go to Vineland in Grimsby area, which is south compared to Toronto. They went to Toronto area. They took the northern QEW because they were so messed up on ketamine, and they were terrified because we were getting smashed, like, boom, 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 like just really scary stuff, right? You don't normally see that in daylight when people are attacking like that. So like, long story short, I'm scared, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm not driving. I'm in the back of the car, pretty much in shock the entire time. The driver's in shock. The other guy's in shock. Neither of us know what to do, but we're driving towards Toronto for some reason. And I knew if we kept going, and I kept telling him to take an exit, and they said we can't do that. As soon as we get off the highway, he's going to start attacking us again. So we started approaching Burlington. We started approaching, getting closer to Mississauga, like Appleby and Fourth Line and these different exits where I knew that his contacts were, because I went there and I've done deals there before. So I knew that his source, where he was getting his supply off of, probably wasn't going to be very happy that I robbed him. I am kidding. I'm not kidding. Like literally, like it was 30 minutes after we got like into Mississauga, and I started seeing vehicles, and I was like, no, that's nothing to do with it. But then the vehicles, there was like a white Silverado pickup truck with a ladder in the back and a black F-150, along with the car that was already attacking us with Mr. X. And they were slowing down and looking into us, and they're middle-aged guys, really scary-looking dudes. I can't talk about who they were, what they were doing, but they were terrifying. And they at first didn't start attacking us, and they waited for like a couple of cars to go away. And then as we're progressing into Toronto area, basically they started smashing into us. The white Silverado would go like right in front of us and slow down, and then we would get hit boom, boom on both sides, and like fishtailing out, and like we almost got hit by an 18-wheeler truck. This is like 4 o'clock, man, in the afternoon.
And
So there's like
it's
all
rush
the
hour traffic.
families.
There's like people
Dude,
everywhere.
it was, yeah, well, the thing is, we went from the Queen Elizabeth, which was a 6-lane highway,
Yeah.
to Highway 89 in Nottawasaga. So Highway 89 is like a 2-lane. So when the QEW, we did get hit a bunch of times, and we did have to deal with some of the gridlock, but it wasn't actually that bad. What happened after this like occurred is as soon as we got to a more rural area of the highway system, they just started smashing and smashing and smashing and smashing and like doing rapid maneuvers on us. And you could see in every vehicle, everybody's on their phone and they were navigating and maneuvering in order to try to take us out. They threw us in the ditch where we got stuck. We somehow got out of there. And that's when I decided that I'm throwing this weed out. I threw the weed out the car. And I said, screw this. I'm not going to jail. I'm not dying today. I put the SIM card back on my phone. I called the Ontario Provincial Police. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I know what that can look like, that I was snitching or whatever, but I was not made for that kind of life. And I called the Ontario Provincial Police. And at that time, I had a burner phone, like a drugged phone, like an encrypted phone. So they don't have Google Maps and stuff on there, you know? And so like, I'm literally like telling them like, hey, this is where I saw, but I don't know where we're going. We blow through like the intersections, blow through it. Well, what happened is there was a construction thing going on or something by a golf course, and eventually after I threw the weed, the 2 trucks left. They were gone. I guess they went to go get the weed or whatever. But the Mr. X was still with us the entire time. He then, I guess, got the go-ahead green light that he has to leave or something, because he basically did this, I'm going to kill you. And he emailed that to us. And then he drove over the median and just like skidded out. And at this point, I'm like, if we don't get his phone if the police don't get his phones and stuff, they're going to kill us. They're going to straight up kill us. So we decided to start chasing Mr. X. We started chasing Mr. X. So now we were being chased for 2.5 hours, almost running out of friggin' gas, hoping the police will save our lives. We're like, well, we're going to be the vigilante here, and we're going to go take out these criminals that the people that we just robbed.
Yeah.
and you know, like that's my mindset, because like I'm like, this guy is going to straight up kill me if I don't get those phones off of him. Yeah. The cops get his phones, maybe I won't die. So we chased him. Then it got stuck on there was like a golf course, and there was like high traffic because of this construction. He was 6 cars in front of us. And at this point, man, there was like 8 or 9 OPP cars converging on all of us, because they had there was families like all over reporting this vicious like activity on the road for 2.5 hours. And they were looking for all of us for quite a long time, because we were causing so much mayhem, and other cars were getting run off the road because of this attack too. And the OPP draw guns on me. They asked me to get out of the car and stuff because they thought that I was the attackers. And then I gave them the phone number that I had called from, and then they realized that we were the victims, because we were really the victims, right? Yeah. But we were the victims in the situation. Definitely didn't stir the pot at all. And so yeah, like they told us to come to the detachment. Long story short, I knew that my Cambodian friends from the mansion were going to kill me because their car was a pretzel now. I don't even know how I was able to drive anymore. And I didn't give them $2,000 each like I promised them the night before, when I coerced them and basically manipulated them in order to do this deal. So I'm like, I told the sergeant, like the detectives, that I am not going home with these guys. I'm going to wait for somebody. So I called my taxi connection from Hamilton. He used to be my driver. I can't talk too much about stuff like that, but he was my driver, and he used to do a lot of my deals in the nighttime and stuff. And I helped him a lot with his family. So he had no problem driving all the way from Hamilton to like basically past Barrie, like 2.5 hours up north, not even like expecting me to pay him, because I paid so much money to this guy. So they tried to make me a criminal informant, and because I was pretty, not really like super connected, but pretty connected to a lot of like prolific criminals that were very well known in the regions there. And I didn't tell them anything, and they didn't like that too much. And I'm not talking shit about the police at all. I'm not.
Yeah.
But they promised me a escort on the highway because I was deathly afraid that the trucks were going to come back out and kill me because I didn't give them the information they wanted. They thought I was wasting their time, you know, and basically they just never showed up. I just waited outside. Nothing happened. I started realizing, I even buzzed the OPP detachment saying, hey, is anybody there? And there's nobody. There's nobody there.
Okay.
So I was like, okay.
So what finally did it for you? Like what was the pinnacle event that ended this lifestyle for you?
Living on the streets because I had to run for my life. I had to get out of the fear of having people wanting to kill you. These guys had Uzis. These guys had like guns. These guys that were they were doing some really bad stuff I can't talk about.
Yeah.
And there were homicides involved. Like I wasn't involved in any of that stuff at all, but I knew that they were actively, some of them, there was killers in some of these organizations and stuff. So because of what happened, I knew that there was a target on me, and then one of my contacts told me that they were looking for me very intensely in Hamilton. Mm-hmm. So I had to go off the grid for 2 years for my life. If I was in Hamilton, I'd probably be dead right now. Yeah. Basically, because I went to the oil patch and I lost my job in like 6 weeks of getting there, like trying to survive on the streets. Like I got one job, and then basically I had to go on Craigslist, and I started like doing some really, really bad stuff, man, to tell you the truth. Like a lot of people, when you can't eat food and you got to do a lot of things, and I had to prostitute myself on the streets and live with really weird people in order to stay alive and to stay underneath the radar. I did not enjoy it, and in fact, some of it was the worst traumas that I ever endured, even beyond the gang life, because I was, you know, I don't want to get too much into it because it's kind of like something I still have to work through, to be quite honest with you. But you know, my body was basically being used in order to keep me alive, and my soul became a pretzel, and I wanted to die. Then I tried to kill myself a couple times doing drugs, right? And I do like 7 drugs at once, like Molly and everything else, and try to blow my heart up. And I wanted to die, and it was pretty brutal on the heart to see what I was getting myself into. And then after the homeless shelter in Calgary, I was like, I have to get out of here. I have to get out of Alberta. I have to go to Vancouver, and I'm going to live on the streets in Vancouver because it's nice there, all year round kind of thing. So when I did that, I lived on the couch with another guy from Craigslist. This guy didn't want to molest me like all the other people did. And basically, he allowed me the opportunity to get my shit together. I got a construction job. And basically what happened after that, I still kept falling down. I still had like psychiatric problems. I still had trouble with the police. I still had a lot of mental health challenges and trauma, but I was like getting into fitness. I became a personal trainer, you know, and I was trying to do something with my life that was constructive.
So this is the turning point. This is the turning point?
Yes, it is.
Oh, we got to do the thing. Sorry, we got to do the thing, because then the thing pops up and we got to do the thing.
That's okay, man.
Yeah. Anyways.
So basically, my first tool that I ever used to actually take care of myself after that whirlwind of trauma and pain and suffering for countless years of being alone and just in so much grief and wanting to die and suicidal, is something inside my heart was like, dude, you are going to die. You need to start doing something and take care of yourself. And I started working out, you know, and I was like really fat. Sorry, I was really overweight at that point. And I started working out. I started eating healthy, just having like chicken stir fry like every single night. And it made me feel better. I still wasn't sleeping. I was still dealing with a lot of post-traumatic stress, but it made me feel better. It made me feel like I was growing a little bit, and my heart was like, hey, there's something here. But I was so injured with my brain, with the pain and the suffering and the trauma, that I still had so many problems. And one time, I got arrested, and because I was having a psychiatric episode, a mental breakdown, I basically, like, in a room, like, I pulled a sink out and freaked everybody out, and I got charged. And what happened after that is basically, like, they were offering me, because I had such, like, I got psychiatric assessments. I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress, borderline personality disorder, and like anxiety disorder, and like a couple other things too, like depression, and like, I had a laundry list of just like mental health diagnosis, which really I found was just emotional trauma, pain, right? It's all the same umbrella. But regardless, that's another topic for another time. The court system saved my life. They funded me a psychologist with cognitive behavioral therapy for my borderline personality disorder and my trauma. And for an entire year, for every week, like, the only condition I had with the courts was to go get help. And that would have cost me like $10,000 to $15,000, and I got it for free, absolutely, because my situation was so bad. The Crown actually, like, was trying to help me and everything. And the judge was crying, the Crown was crying, like, I was crying. Like, I said to everybody, I was like, I don't want to be like this anymore. I never wanted to be like this. I don't know what to do. I just need help. I don't want to hurt anybody anymore, and I don't want to hurt myself. And I just got into this state of mind where it's like, I know I'm going to die. And if I don't do something, Corey, you're not going to be on this earth, and your parents are going to bury you. And I knew that was the reality, because I already saw what was happening in my life. The streets, the gangs, like, just not wanting to exist, not being, I had a monster inside my head, man. Like, I still have to, I still fight some battles every now and then if I have some really hard times, because that trauma is like, it's a lot of work to get that shit out of your body and your heart. But like, I had a monster inside my head, and it was really, really bad. Like, I used to want to look in the mirror and break it in 3 million pieces, because I hated who I was. And after I saw a psychologist, I got the help that I needed. I started getting a little awareness. I got a little enough awareness that I had a fatalistic mindset, is what my psychologist said, because I literally was, through all that shit, always thinking I was going to die. Everybody was a threat to me. So long story short, I moved into a house with my roommate that was in the nonprofit sector. And he owns a charity, and it's an organization that helps people with mental health and Parkinson's, and accessing health services not covered by the government. So at first, I'm doing the personal training thing, trying to find my path with that. That didn't really work out, because I more or less just like lifting weights. I didn't really like the personal training qualities of it. I just did it to try to find identity. With the nonprofit sector, I started doing work with him, and he started being my mentor. And he was the first person ever, after all that shit that I went through, that he's like, you know what, man? Like, I know, like, you're going through a lot of stuff here, but I'm not going to abandon you. I'm here. I got your back. And here, by the way, like, here's some skills. Like, he wasn't a perfect person, and he's still a good friend of mine today. But he taught me. He was at the gateway of my life with that psychologist. Those two people are the reason I'm here right now and alive, 100% unequivocally. Because at that point, I was already trying to kill myself 3 times. I was out. I was getting a one-way ticket out of this earth. I was done with my consciousness. I was like, see you later, guys. I don't care. This show sucks. I'm done.
Yeah.
And like, he showed me the nonprofit sector. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't know this stuff. I didn't have empathy. I was building all this like a muscle, right? I didn't know any of this stuff. I was basically acting like a demon before and hurting people for a friggin' living, and then in survival mode constantly, always trying to find a way to eat food, always trying to find a way to survive. And waking up in the middle of the night thinking someone's going to stab me in the chest because I had people after me. You know, and this really impressed upon me a very bad outlook for society and life. And when I saw this person show me some love and the psychologist show me some compassion, it gave me enough thread to start pulling on the proverbial rope of hope to get the heck out of that situation. I faked it till I maked it, you know, and at first I didn't understand what I was doing, but the longer I stayed in that environment of helping people in the nonprofit sector with mental health and everything, I finally started finding my grooves. You know, I started writing content. I started finding my childlike innocence and curiosity started coming back. And I started writing. My dad's a writer. I'm a writer. And a lot of my creativity and what I love to do started coming back because I started having love in my life again. People started showing me compassion and love, and it was the ability for the light in my heart to grow and open and to be willing to receive love and to being willing to give love. Awesome. And I started caring about myself, man. And like, it was amazing experience to go from, dude, seeing myself go through that stuff before, like, I don't even know who that person is. It feels like the reel of a movie.
Yeah.
It feels like a reel of a movie of memories of, yes, it happened.
When I did that stuff, when I put down the drugs, I remember thinking it feels like I stepped out of an 8-year time warp. Like, it's just like I missed like 8 years of my life. So, but anyways, let's go into the viewer's voice. We can talk some more, but let's look at some comments.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got here? Oh, we've got Ange, thanks for watching tonight. She's talking about Wakamo in Regina. That is a detox there that I've heard lots of stories about, but apparently they had their own washrooms at least. Donna in Saskatoon talking about our social detox here. Yes, we know it's not the greatest. And then we've got Wilhelmina. I hope I'm saying your name right. You've been watching for Wilhelmina. She's just laughing because that's funny. Let's see, Brent. Thank you for watching, Brent. Treatment needs to fit the person, and that's exactly right. You know, it's interesting.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how our current system seems to think that we need to accommodate the system when in fact it is the system that needs to accommodate us. We've got Wilhelmina again. Your honesty around the AA experience is refreshing, Corey. Good conversation that needs to be had more often with more people. Yes, this is true. And we've got Diane. I hope I'm saying that right. That's Diane, right? When the person's ready to stop, AA works. And yes, Diane, this is a show where everyone is welcome to pull up a table and talk about their experiences as it relates to them and what works for them. The program did work for me. It did, you know, and I'm not afraid to say that. And I know there's a lot of blue flamers out there that you can't talk about that. And like, well, we're gonna. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm just gonna be Corey and just like I was gonna be Corey my whole life, so I'm just gonna tell my life story the way that I perceived it. That's all. It's no offense to anybody. No, I'm not slandering anybody. That's it.
You are free to say your journey. You're free to talk about your journey however you see fit on this show. We don't endorse one way. We don't believe there's one way. There's 1,000 ways to recovery. Okay, so we've got Haley. I don't think this is all going to fit on the screen. So, but we're going to see what happens. No, not even close. Anyway, okay, I'll read it out. She says there are a lot of misconceptions around there about 12-step programs. Some groups or members do claim that AA or NA is the only solution. You need to come to meetings to be sober, etc. But I was taught that my recovery is my responsibility and my choice. Only I am in charge. The programs have suggestions, not requirements, which I am sure grateful for. As an addict, I never do what I'm told. Very honest of you, Haley. Thank you. Bonita, we've got... Bonita says, college can be the end of peace of mind for many people. Even if you stay with it, the more we learn, the more we realize we know nothing about life. Sad, but sometimes true. What else do we have here? We've got Donna chiming in. I don't think we can get to all of these comments. I'm sorry. Donna, absolutely amazing story. Thank you for sharing. Krista Williams, yes. Amazing story. Amazing story. Thanks for sharing your story. We've got Beverly. Beverly's an upcoming guest here in the next few weeks. Beverly says, thank you for sharing your experience to overcome so much trauma. It is really inspiring to folks still stuck in their struggles. And
I love you all. Serious.
yeah, we've got a good crew here. We've got some loyal viewers. Let's see what else we've got. Haley says, wow, Corey, it's crazy how something happened. It's crazy how as broken people we go back to the situations we know time and time again, like abusing drugs, even though we know what it will mean. It's like we think that what we deserve, or we are magnets for chaos.
Yes.
And we've got Ange chiming in. Thanks for watching, Ange. Thanks for the reminder of keeping that open dialogue with children about bullying. I never told my parents either about things I went through. As a kid, I hope my son feels that he can talk to me. And I think we've got one more here. Wilhelmina again, thank you for sharing your very sad and scary story, Corey. Recovering out loud so helps others who are working towards a better life. And finally, we have Donna. I respect AA and NA, but it wasn't my path. BPD gang. What is the BPD?
I'm not sure if he was going to
Haley, what is the BPD gang? I don't know what that is.
It's borderline personality disorder.
Oh,
people that
okay.
have that diagnosis, they call it BPD. Yeah.
We've got Cheryl chiming in. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. I lost my son to trauma and drugs. So glad you're alive, darling. So sorry to hear that, Cheryl.
I'm very sorry for your loss. Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. Okay, my friend. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with tonight?
I just want to say, guys, that no matter your diagnosis in life, of whatever identity is given to you, you are you as a person. I was given the borderline personality disorder. I was given the trauma. You know what it really is, guys? It's emotional pain of the heart. And everybody suffers from emotional pain of the heart. That's how we remove ourselves from isolation of society and stigma, as we understand everybody goes through grief. Everybody goes through breakups. You don't have to go to the streets. You don't have to have the story that I had to suffer. Never feel like your pain is not enough for you to go and seek help. And always remember that you got to take care of yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to give yourself care. Your definitive action in your life will be the ability to stop those negative thoughts attacking you. When you see yourself helping yourself and taking those reference points of action, your heart is watching the entire time. Our minds will always play tricks, guys, but your heart is always watching everything you do. And when you show yourself love and you take care of yourself, you will never, ever live a life like you did before. Remember, guys, emotional pain is universal. We all suffer from it. We are human beings in this experience. That is not an easy task in itself, with tens of thousands of thoughts and tons of different emotional sensations. We never have the same mood throughout the day for most of us, even people that meditate, you know? So don't be so hard on yourself. Get the help and turn your life into a laboratory for growth and development. Read books. Do everything that you can. Every activity you do that helps you, your heart will heal just a little bit more. And that's all I have to say for you guys. I love you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us tonight, Corey. We will let you go. Take care, my friend.
Absolutely, brother. It's awesome being on here, guys. Good luck in your journey. Love you so much.
Bye-bye. Fostering change is our primary purpose here at Hard Knocks Talks. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that the lie is dead. We do recover, and we're here to show you how. Good night. Oh, damn it. I was trying to be all prolific there, and I had a little tech issue.